What's going on, everybody? Today is April 6th, 2020. I'm going to talk a little bit about some news by the numbers today. We had the U.S. Surgeon General calling next week our Pearl Harbor moment here in the United States. So we'll explain why this article was published on April 5th by the numbers in relation to the attack on Pearl Harbor, as well as the numerology of the Surgeon General himself, the date he took office. Just before going live, I saw some news about YNW Melly talking about dying from COVID-19 and trying to get released from jail. So we're going to do a little bit of live decoding about this story too. If you'll check the description below, there's a video on the eclipse crucifixion code, which has to do with eclipses and particularly rappers dying by this code of letters and numbers. And today's a Monday, and both total solar eclipses in 2017 and 2024 are on Mondays. So I know there's going to be a riddle there with the number of weeks. So we'll check that out later on in the video. Otherwise, for the most part, we're just going to do this on the fly. I want to keep the chat open, and I'm going to be dropping in there once in a while here. And the world's a crazy place right now. A lot of people have expressed how they're going through difficult times, whether it's financially, emotionally, maybe their stress levels are a little high. And, hey, I wish I could say I was doing better myself. Certainly, it's a chaotic world, and I'm not necessarily struggling out of fear like most people seem to be in this maddened world, but because it's kind of the fruition of what I've been worried about for 15 years since I woke up to global government and the deep state, so to speak, and what they had planned for Americans. And we're seeing that pan out under the guise of this disease. And, it's a time of, heightened stress. And, whether or not this is the full play by the New World Order, whether it's going to be a 10-year plan, either way, it's not a pleasant thing to see, especially when it seems like the vast majority of the public is totally on board with the destruction of their rights and the Constitution. So, just shout out to everybody who's in the chat already. I see we got almost about 50 people live here, right at 9 o'clock. So thanks to everybody. Fortunately, I haven't been yelled at by anyone for being within 6 feet. I did notice that at the stores here in Milwaukee, they started laying tape down on the floor in some of these stores so that when you're standing in line, you have to stand within like a certain box or something. And me, being the rebellious spirit I am, of course, I'm not going to stand in that box. I'm going to stand right outside it. I guess to some extent, you still want to respect other people who are afraid, but at the same time, it's tough not to tell them why they shouldn't be afraid. And I'll be damned, at the grocery store, my trip there today, as I was leaving, I couldn't help myself at the checkout to tell everybody that this is a staged pandemic to take our rights away. And got a nice little chuckle from the bagger who clearly does not see it that way. But before we talk more about that, I just want to go over the numerology of this story. Again, we talk about the language of Gematria, the code of letters and numbers. And this is a very simple practice. We start with the alphabetic order, which numbers the alphabet 1 through 26, each letter relative to its position in the alphabetic order. The other main cipher is called full reduction or Pythagorean Gematria. You'll see this cipher uses the rules of numerology to reduce each double-digit number to a single digit. So the letter M, for instance, the 13th letter in the English ordinal method, 1 plus 3 is 4. So in full reduction, M equals 4. The letter Z, the 26th, 2 plus 6 is 8. The reverse alphabetic order simply flips the alphabet around so that A is 26 and Z is assigned 1. And then we'll also be tapping into Jewish Gematria, also known as Latin Gematria. Think of this as the bridge between the ancient Hebrew and Latin languages to the current present 26-letter English alphabet. And this cipher contains only Latin characters up through Z, or 23, and then places the more modern English characters at the end. So with these basic methods that I teach in every single video, we can unlock the code by which the mainstream media is scripting its news stories. So why yesterday for this article about Pearl Harbor and how this coming week is going to be our Pearl Harbor, our 9/11 moment? As I've been saying on this channel for weeks now, this COVID-19 shutdown is the new 9/11. And it's basically 9/11 on crack, cocaine, meth, and heroin. But I want to point out what's so significant about this date. Notice how the attack on Pearl Harbor took place on December 7th of 1941. Well, if you measure from that date to the date of this news article, notice how you get an exact number of weeks. 4,087. Well, in numerology, 4,087 represents 487. 487 is the 93rd prime number. This is a number that's very relevant to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, which sums to 93 in standard reduction gematria. With the S exception, U.S. Surgeon General also sums to 93. Our current Surgeon General is this man. Notice how he's labeled as Vice Admiral Jerome Adams. And conveniently, in gematria, this also yields a 93. You also have to appreciate the 201. Remember, Event 201 was the pandemic exercise held conveniently by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation less than a month before the coronavirus pandemic, which Bill Gates just happened to predict. I think we'll see this gematria again as we decode. In the year 2020, the coronavirus pandemic has really taken over the world. And in gematria, we get a 220 in ordinal. This stands out because notice how Pearl Harbor occurred on a date with primary numerology of 79, and this is the 22nd prime number. And in fact, this year, Pearl Harbor turns 79 years old. This news story is 8 months, 2 days before the anniversary of this event, attack on Pearl Harbor 82. Of course, the Pearl Harbor attack was the 9/11 of its time. Notice how attack on Pearl Harbor gives us an upside-down 9/11, the 116 in reverse reduction. Donald Trump was quoted in many news articles yesterday saying there will be a lot of death. This is the one that was in the headlines. And notice how this also gives us that 116. As far as the headline gematria, CNN virtually always coding its headlines. Notice how this headline, did they change it again? This will be like a Pearl Harbor and 9/11 moment. Yeah, they did change it. Previously, this, oh, you know what? I might have gotten it wrong. Ugh. This pandemic's getting to my head. I'm making mistakes in my blog posts. All right, the headline gematria, not important. Yeah, let's take a look at it anyway. Oh, I see. The 58th prime number. So the headline sums to 271. 271, the 58th prime. The 58th triangular is 1711. Yep, I knew it. Look how old U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams was. Or actually, how many weeks had passed since Pearl Harbor when he was born. Exactly 1,711 weeks. That's the 58th triangular number. CNN's headline sums to the 58th prime number. And of course, 58 number of Freemasonry. That would be the secret society that's running the mainstream media. All right. I didn't want to let that one slide. Next, we're going to look at the numerology of Jerome Adams, both his date of birth and the date that he assumed the role of Surgeon General back in 2017. First, notice how disease equals 127 in the reverse order. This is like the date of Pearl Harbor, 12/7, December 7th. Well, 127 is the 31st prime number. And this is interesting because if you measure from the date this man took office to the date of yesterday's news article, it was exactly 31 months. Notice how Jerome Adams sums to 41, like the year Pearl Harbor occurred in, 41. And of course it was 1941. 19 equals 41, just like Jerome Adams. The 19th prime number is 67. Jerome Adams, 67. COVID-19 equals the 19th prime number, 67. And then the 67th prime number is 331. And look at the gematria of Jerome Michael Adams. 331. So just like we saw with the 9/11 attacks, these people are completely coded for this disaster. Also notice the 155 in the alphabetic order, Jerome Michael Adams. That's the ordinal value of coronavirus. And how about the name Jerome? In all four base methods, this has the same gematria as corona. This story came out on April 5th. COVID-19 equals 45. Look how old Mr. Jerome Adams was on the date of this news story, born September 22nd of 1974. 45 years and 197 days old. Well, the 45th prime number is 197. So this guy had a very neat alignment with his age and the date. Also, of course, he was born in the year 74. His full name, Jerome Michael Adams, sums to 74. Another Masonic agent being used to bring about the New World Order agenda. All right, so just popping back in on the chat here. As I've been talking about the last couple weeks, this vaccination agenda has a lot to do with the number 666. Vaccination summing to 666. And I noted recently, too, how Bill Gates sums to the 156 and 87, which is 666. 156, 87. This man being used to bring about this vaccination agenda, it does appear. Okay, back to the chat. Somebody mentioned the fake alien invasion. I tell you what, I would much rather that have been done than this pandemic, as it certainly would have been a little more entertaining. We're going to get into the death of, or not the death, but the story about YNW Melly the rapper who was recently diagnosed with COVID-19 while in jail. The disease which just mysteriously pops up everywhere. Wherever celebrities are, it somehow pops up. I myself was at the grocery store again today, and it's wild how it's progressed. I went 2 weeks ago, I went last weekend, I went today, and, it was like a couple people with masks 2 weeks ago. Last week it was about half the people with masks, and now everybody who was over a certain age was wearing a mask, except for this ranting homeless guy who was calling it the cock virus, which I couldn't help but snicker at. But I've seen some pretty ghetto masks too, like people using just bandanas over their face, and it's hard to not feel bad for them. Like, I can see that people are fearful, and it stinks because I'm empathetic by nature. Of course, I get that from my mom, who's like empathetic to a disease almost, and it's tough because you want them not to be, but it's like no matter what you say, they're under this spell. All right, Bob, I'm going to take you up on this offer. April 23rd, spell it out. What's April 23rd? 423. We get some interesting numbers related to the code, the 93 and the 210. But yeah, the whole thing with social distancing, I mean, I could not feel more triggered walking around in a store and listening to the loudspeaker tell me to stay 6 feet away from everybody. This whole idea that you can spread germs, through means other than like coughing or sneezing on somebody or touching them directly and, touching their face. It's as if they're pretending there's this big germ bubble around people. And I don't know how this is being accepted by people as this real thing. Like, no matter where you go, this virus is going to jump out at you. I'd be shocked if it was really that contagious. And, just as an honest discussion, we have 92 people right now in the live chat. Does anybody know anyone who's hospitalized from this disease? Because my real life experience with this is not that it's a pandemic. I don't think it's a total hoax. It seems like some people are getting sick. They're getting diagnosed with this thing, and they're not well, but they're also not gravely ill in the least. And the fact that people are going along with this, I mean, what in the world? So I'll keep an eye on the chat for anybody who wants to throw anything out there as far as their experience with this virus, anyone they know that's really suffering from this. It's very bizarre. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of no's. Because like I said, I've heard of people who say they know someone who has it, but like I said, they're not that ill. And I myself, I've been largely healthy aside from like a 2 or 3 day battle with a strep throat back in 2013. I haven't had a really bad cold or flu since 2007. And actually, at the end of this video, I'm going to play you guys out to a song that I wrote in the year 2007. And it's funny that I wrote this. I wrote this song, like I said, last time I had the flu in 2007, and it was in November, and I called the song Typical November Infection. And it's funny because, of course, COVID-19 happening to pop up in November, that's when the first case was logged. And this was, 12 years earlier, but kind of funny nonetheless. So I'll play that song on the outro of this video. Also, if someone has links, and maybe this will be better for the comments, like after the video and not necessarily in the live chat, but I've been doing some research into viruses and some of these doctors from the alternative medicine fields who have tried to present the real truth about viruses and how transmittable they really are, what kind of diseases are truly contagious, and it makes me feel not very smart listening to these guys talk. So if anybody has any more enlightening material that's easily digestible as far as that goes, because I'm really curious about this whole idea that these diseases are being spread so freely. Like, I don't understand how people are can be like, you can walk past somebody and get it within 5-10 feet. It's bizarre. Also, there's some news saying that these false positives are up to 80%. And if that's true, along with the fact that up to 80% of the people are also asymptomatic, then nobody has any idea, really, how many people have that disease, assuming it's real. And yeah. All right. So let's take a look at YNW Melly. And again, I'm going to talk about the Eclipse code here. And let's see. I'm going to have to pull up this image. Let's see if I got it. Get a little behind the scenes here on the Gematrinator blog. But I just want to pull up this picture. These are the two eclipses that will be traversing the United States. One has already occurred in 2017. The second in 2024. And the 2024 one is really the key here. Think about how Corona sums to 224 in Jewish Gematria. And now we have the coronavirus conveniently between these two total solar eclipses. And what is the corona? The corona is the atmosphere of the sun, which is only visible to the naked eye during a total solar eclipse. So this disease has clearly been engineered and released, if indeed it's real. And it's all a tribute to the 1331 total solar eclipse. The same year that occurred, Black Death became a plague, and that started in Hubei, China. Also the same province where COVID-19 began. And look at Hubei in Jewish Gematria, also 224, just like Corona. Okay, so this will be fun. We got a decode of a guy with the name Demons. So you know the numerology here is going to be very solid. And again, the news today that YNW Melly wanting to be released from prison because he thinks he's dying of COVID-19. So, again, I haven't really looked at the numerology here. I mean, I did decode this guy a little bit a long time ago, but by no means do I have any understanding of what the riddle here is yet. But we're going to understand it's going to have something to do with these eclipses. So, again, both of these eclipses, August 21st, 2017 and April 8th, 2024, occurred on a Monday. And think about that. Monday, the day named after the moon, the day on which the moon is covering the sun. It's an intriguing coincidence nonetheless. So this news comes on April 6th of 2020. Today is exactly 137 weeks after the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse, and that's interesting. Total eclipse equals 137 in Gematria. 137 is the 33rd prime number. 33 is the reduction value of eclipse. So, I guarantee you there's going to be a nice 33 riddle in the name of YNW Melly, and probably his real name too. I'm sure we'll come across something meaty. And again, live decode, guys. Like, I'm just telling you, I know the code. The link's in the description below. The Eclipse Crucifixion code is legit, especially with rappers. So then the second eclipse occurs on April 8th of 2024. And we get 209 weeks. And this, I figured it was 209 because I knew 2 weeks ago was 211. So just to confirm, this is the Hebrew Gematria page for solar eclipse. As you can see, if you translate this phrase over to Google Translate, it should... Well, that's not the same. Hang on. Okay, you get eclipse, but this word here is sun, like you can see in the description below, and this is eclipse. So this is a solar eclipse phrase, right? And this should equal 209 in Hebrew Gematria. Bingo. How about that? So 137 weeks from the last American eclipse, 209 weeks to the next total solar eclipse. Solar eclipse 209, total eclipse 137. So, bingo, we already have some pretty interesting matches with the date numerology. So we should see a 33 riddle and maybe like a 209 or a 29. And 29 is significant. Think about this. Jesus equals 29 in single reduction. Christ equals 290 in Jewish Gematria. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about the crucifixion code in the Bible, in 3 of the 4 Gospels. A total solar eclipse is what is presumed by some historians. Darkness over the sky, the death of the sun during the death of the sun. Very symbolic. All right. So, let's check out YNW Melly. I feel like Melly's going to be more relevant. Oh, how about this? YNW Melly, 33, reverse reduction Gematria. Okay. If we just look at Melly, no, there's that 67. And the 67 stands out. Remember, 67's the 19th prime number. It said he's dying of COVID-19. Blood sacrifice, 67. Human sacrifice, 67. Total solar eclipse, 67. All right. Let's check out his full name, Jamel Maurice Demons. And a couple nice things here. The 113, remember it was the 11th of March, 11/3, on which the coronavirus pandemic was declared. Coronavirus pandemic 113 in the year 2020. The 193 is kind of a damning number. This is the 44th prime number. 44, the value of kill in English. 76, blood sacrifice, human sacrifice in reverse. Or I'm sorry, with the S exception. You also get the 223, famous Masonic code. But what about his name without his middle name, just Jamel Demons? And look at this, you get 201. We talked about this number with the Surgeon General, Vice Admiral Jerome Adams, 201. Jamel Demons, 201. Like Event 201. Of course, we have 66 in reverse. 66, that's Corona. 66 and 33, like Melly. Of course, 33 equals 66. And look at 33 equals 895. And look at Jamel Demons, 895. Look at this. 895, Jamel Demons, 895, 33. Remember, this is the ritual human sacrifice code, 895. It was Judas who betrayed Jesus, leading to the crucifixion. Oh, you guys. In 137 weeks, the 33rd prime number after the total eclipse. Boom! I mean, this stuff writes itself. You don't even need to know that much. You just got to know the baseline of the code they're using. That's pretty incredible. What about the next? Okay, let's see. What are we missing? Okay, demons equals 29. We were looking for the 209. The next total solar eclipse is 209 weeks. So we get that in his last name, not a big match. YNW Melly. What does YNW stand for? I'm going to the chat here, guys. Can you tell me? Can you guys tell me what YNW stands for? I don't know. I'm thinking like, I don't know. I can't think of anything. Like, you're not welcome comes to mind. That's the only thing I can think of. That doesn't make any sense, though. What does YNW stand for? Well, according to Google, it does say you're not welcome. I don't know if anybody in the chat does know this. I don't know if this is right. Maybe it is. Well, there's your 209. You're not welcome equals 209. I wonder if that's really what it stands for. Does this Wikipedia page say? Huh. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the whole rap world, so YNW. Well, you do get the 192 and 69. Those are Eclipse numbers. 192, 69, Eclipse. 69 and 192 in our primary ciphers. How funny would it be if it was You're Not Welcome? 209. I like how YouTube is censoring everyone's comments. It is, okay. I think it's pretty consistent. It's not You're Not Welcome. Young neighbor world, I don't think that's right. I get it, guys. Thanks for filling that in. But so just a coincidence on the 209, I guess. So let's measure to this guy's albums and see how that part plays into the riddle. So the Murder on My Mind is the signal that I know of from this guy. I'm not sure about this other song. I think he's got an album too, right? He does have a studio album that was released on November 22nd. That's an interesting date. So we're going to look at this one lone studio album because we know there's going to be good numerology here. So this was released on November 22nd of 2019. And would you look at that, it's 137 days later to this news story about him wanting out of jail. So that's perfect. As far as the date, the 22nd of November, most of the world writes this as 2211. Now, 2211 is a special number. That's the 66th triangular number. Every number, 1 through 66. And, of course, Corona equals 66. Remember Jamel Demon's 66. 666, the number of the beast, the demon. Pretty clear riddle there. Oh, look at this. The lead signal is 223s? Are you kidding me? We just talked about this number, Masonic 223. Jamel Maurice Demons 1223. Very nice. And look at the numerology of this release date, too. You have 72 and 45 primary numerology. COVID-19, 45 and 72. Okay, I get this. So the name of the album was Melly versus Melvin. We get a 269 in Jewish Gematria. Notice how today's news falling on the date that leaves 269 days in the year. I don't think that's a coincidence because look at the 57th prime number. 269, the 57th prime, we get a 57 in reduction and a 269 in Jewish. This is the Gematria of Moon 57. And then we get another 69 in reverse reduction. Remember, that's eclipse. As far as the 183, what I think this probably is coding is think about 183 minutes on a clock. That's 3 hours and 3 minutes, like the number 33. YNW Melly 33. Also, this album released on the date with 39 days left in the year. YNW Melly 39 reduction. All right, we also got this song Murder on My Mind, censored as Mischief on My Mind, which is hilarious. Another 192, another eclipse number. What about the date? June 1st, 2018. Nothing terribly exciting. What this also might have something to do with. Notice how, although this news story from today, talking about Melly trying to get out of prison, I think this is actually on his Wikipedia page. On April 2nd was the date that he told Twitter fans that he had tested positive. Oh, we didn't even look at this guy's birthday yet. All right, well, he was born in 1999. You got that upside down 666. He was born on the date leaving 244 days in the year. 19 equals 244. The 19th prime is 67, so falling down with COVID-19 makes sense. Also, it was the 93rd day of the year. That's a big number for the crucifixion code. Crucifix equals 93. Jesus was of Nazareth, 93. He was God's son. And the sun, of course, 93 million miles away. One thing that also seems to be relevant is when you add their common name to their stage name. And the 252. I think it's 252 days to the next total solar eclipse. So the closest total solar eclipse is December 14th later this year. And yeah, it's 252 days away. And YNW Melly Jamel Demons 252. I don't think that's a coincidence. If you look at my Pop Smoke video, you see similar alignments. The last eclipse was on July 2nd of last year. Oh, that's 280 days. Total solar eclipse in Hebrew gives us a 280. It's been 280 days since the last total solar eclipse. So that just layers on what we were looking at before. Anyway, ain't nothing terribly exciting about this this single, but the numerology of his one studio album certainly seems to pay tribute. Okay, so if you type in Melly Melvin, you get 142 and 155, also 156. That's like coronavirus. I don't know if that's a coincidence, because that's not really the name of the album. And then the remix, look at that. The remix came out on March 13th, 2020. And look at coronavirus, 1303. In Jewish Gematria, it was the 13th of March on which coronavirus was declared a national emergency here in the United States. Oh, what are you guys bickering about in the chat? Not a whole lot of mods in here. I got to distribute a little more mod responsibilities soon here. Sorry, I'm just browsing through the chat here. Someone wants me to decode the movie Pi. That's a pretty easy one. I guess real quick, we can look at the movie Pi. We can look at the main actor in Pi, possibly Darren Aronofsky too, the director of the film. So the funny thing about the movie Pi is that this guy plays the main character. And in the film, he builds a computer program that essentially decodes the Bible, and the computer actually becomes self-aware after decoding the Hebrew Torah, and he ends up discovering the name of God and all this other stuff. And it's funny because it's essentially Gematria that he's studying in one form or another. And on my website, Gematrinator, you can get the full King James Bible decoded. And what's funny about this guy is that he has the same birthday as me, June 4th. And his name's Sean Gillette. Sums to 141 and 183, which is the same as Gematrinator. So this is a big part of the organic matrix for me personally, is having alignments with this guy. So Sean Gillette was born on June 4th of 1968. See how old he was when this film came out? Notice how the word pi in square numbers equals 337. 337 is a prime number. See how it's the 68th prime number? Sean Gillette was born in the year 68. And this is how old he was. 337, pi 337. And the trippy part about this, guys, is that if you measure from my birthday in 85, I was 13 years and 37 days old. And my full name in Gematria equals 337. Also, check out how birthday in Gematria equals 604. My birthday is 604. Pretty strange. Darren Aronofsky was born in the year 69. See how the word pi equals 69 in Jewish Gematria? This is the alphabetic ordinal value of circles, 69. This might be something that's... I don't really see much in the ordinal methods with Aronofsky for pi. Oh, 76. Pi using prime numbers equals 76. This cipher, the alphabetic order, but with associated primes, 76. Darren Aronofsky, 76. Also, the 86, that's an upside down 98. Call it playing with numbers, but 3.14 equals 98. So pi resolves the mathematics of the circle. Mathematics of the circle equals 666. If you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you get a product of 216. That's the ordinal value of mathematics of the circle. 666 is the number of the beast. And see how this sums to 174 in English ordinal? On the date that Pi was released, Darren Aronofsky was 10,740 days old. Is that playing with numbers? I don't know. This is a live decode. Look at his age. He was 29 years old. Look at pi equals 29 in reverse gematria. He was 4 months, 4 weeks after his birthday. Notice how circle in Hebrew gematria, summing to 44. I mean, again, maybe that's coincidental. It seems to be convenient, right? I like this 148 also. So anything that's 148 in the alphabetic order, so let's say Donald J. Trump, for instance, anything that's 148 is 888 in Sumerian gematria. And I pointed out how 3.14, it gives us that value of 888. But I think the riddle there seems clear. Also notice how pi came out on a date with 44 in numerology, so that 4 months, 4 weeks after his birthday is probably relevant after all. Oh, and look at this. 174 days left in the year. Boom. That's what I was talking about. Number of the beast. 174, 666, mathematics of the circle. Darren Aronofsky, 10,740 days old. So there's definitely something relevant there. Let's see. What else? What else can we decode from this film? Pi, Faith in Chaos is the name of this film. Well, perhaps the 240 is relevant. 24 hours in a day. There's 1,440 minutes in a day, which is the gematria of this film down in reverse Sumerian. 218. Well, there's a little bit more I could touch on here, but nothing that really stands out too much. So I wonder if there's a gematria riddle with the faith in chaos. $84 minutes. Didn't we just see an 84? Oh, yeah. So the film is 84 minutes long, with the S exception, pi, faith in chaos, equals 84. All right, so I think that's fair enough. That's a good little decode, right? Let's see. Have I seen the Film Your Hospital videos? Someone asked me. I have seen a lot of Film Your Hospital videos. And of course, there's nothing resembling a pandemic going on at any of the videos that I've seen. I've driven by a couple hospitals, breaking my curfew, and I don't really see anything going on. It's pretty empty there. It's pretty empty everywhere. It's a ghost town out there everywhere. It's insane. But what's funny is, and maybe not, I shouldn't say funny, but they're parking these refrigerated trucks outside of all these hospitals, and it's pretty clear they're using this as this representation of death. It's supposed to really, really scare people. Like, oh my god, a truck full of bodies. There's a truck full of bodies. Um, But one thing I wanted to talk about too is the number of deaths from this disease. I think one of the tactics that they're definitely using is reporting basically anything as a COVID-19 death that they can. So even though the person might have been in the hospital for an entirely different reason, if they somehow test positive for the disease, even though there's a 80% false positive rate, allegedly, there's no way to know because there's no real gold standard for this test. But if they test positive, then they'll list it as a death of COVID-19, even though that's not really what caused their death. It could have been something else. And I saw a chart yesterday that showed the number of deaths from pneumonia that dropped sharply. That graph was since removed, so I don't know if the data was incorrect or whatever, but I think what you're going to see is that deaths from other diseases are going to drop significantly, conveniently, of course, as COVID-19 deaths rise in this coming year here in 2020. Someone mentioned to take a peep at the June 18th, 2018 Time cover. Okay. Let's take a glance. I see King Trump here. King me, it says. So this was right after Trump's birthday. So 6/18 is an interesting date. Of course, 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. This was on 6/18/18. No doubt, significant date. Trump had just turned 72 years old. Wow, 724? Are you kidding me? Number of the beast, 724. Trump was 72 years, 4 days old on the date of this Time magazine cover. Wow, a pretty clear riddle there. Visions of absolute power. I don't know if it would really make sense for this to have significant gematria or not. Probably not. But I think the riddle here is with his age. The 724, that's number of the beast code. I did a post a long time ago how the stock market dropped 666 points, and then on a convenient date it also dropped 724 points. So that 724 is a number to keep an eye out for. Number of the beast. Yeah, I certainly come from the belief that there's, both sides of, Republican and Democrat is pretty much all the same stage show. I still find Trump to be the most fascinating character in all of media and mainstream. You don't really hear me talk shit about Trump because I don't really have a whole lot of shit to say bad about him. He seems like kind of a shitty person, like a big asshole, terrible businessman, creepy dude, a liar. But hearing him talk about coronavirus, I don't really disagree with what he says. I mean, I wish he'd come out and say, hey, this is a bioweapon that's been released as a staged pandemic for you to lose your rights. But, there's probably dueling factions within the elites. I don't necessarily think it's all playing out by a perfect script. I could be wrong. And, my opinions are just my opinions. I'm just going off of observations. It just seems like Trump, does ruffle some feathers when it comes to deep state stuff, and it just seems like it's way better than having someone like Hillary in there or Biden, And I'm not telling you to go vote for Trump necessarily. That's not my recommendation. Like I said, it's part of the system, but if you're really looking at the lesser of the two evils, I can't say that's not the case. If you believe that voting even counts, which I don't necessarily believe that either. So I don't know. I can't explain everything about what's going on. All I know is that it's playing out by the numbers, and how much of this is organic, how much of this is man-made, as a little nod to the code. That's always up for debate, but the code is real, no doubt. Um, I just wish a president would come out and say the truth one of these days, right? Okay, so we're looking at about an hour into the stream here. I don't really want to push it too much further. I see the chat is, a lot of bickering. I'm going to probably have to censor some of you guys. Trying to keep it positive here, It's a crazy world, and I think a lot of us are starting to feel the effects of being cooped up in our homes for so long. It's like I've had people over occasionally, and I've hung out at other people's houses, but there's only so much excitement in it, and technically we're not even supposed to be doing that. Big Brother says social visits should be avoided, but of course that's the whole idea, is separating people from one another. Every generation, we always need some sort of disaster for the government to remind us that it's relevant, or to make us believe it's relevant, when in fact the federal government especially does no real good for the common man, and really just runs this nation into further debt, further inflating our currency, devaluing what we've worked for. That's what the government is in business of. That's what the whole model is built on. And it's being perpetuated no matter who you vote for. So, strive for some sort of financial freedom, for the ability to buy what you need, the type of food you want to eat. Beyond that, I think it's you got to keep your goals realistic. So yeah, I hope you guys are doing all right. Like I said, I sense a lot of anger, a lot of people bitching at those who have brought up to them in public that they're standing too close or something. And I get it, man. Like, I'm almost ready to pop off a little bit at the store. There's a part of me that almost wants someone to say something to me about being too close so that I can pop off at them, but I have to try and keep my cool, I think. And again, keep the understanding that people are living under this illusion, and there's only so much you can do. There's only so many people you can wake up. I think that's part of what is really going on here at a deeper spiritual level. And, we can just kind of maybe wrap this video up talking a little bit about the theories from that. There's a lot of people discussing how incredibly relevant the spiritual side of this pandemic is. Because whether or not it's a real weapon, whether or not it's something that's natural, I think at a spiritual level, there's, the type of people who are going to be infected by a pandemic, I think the reason a lot of people are afraid is because there's this misunderstanding about what this reality is and what we're living in. And as I've been trying to expose for a few years, we live in some sort of organic matrix. We're all here for a reason. We're coded in this together. And we shouldn't be afraid of forces beyond our control as a society because of this, because what this language of numerology and gematria provides a window to, which is the operations of reality. And I think if people had a better understanding of, that there's this extra layer, this extra dimension to reality, then something like a virus scare is going to be a little less freaky when it finally pops up. And maybe I'm wrong. But the mind control out there is incredibly powerful right now. And, I've always questioned how strong the mind control is, how strong the spell is on the people. Again, I woke up to 9/11 being a lie back in the year 2004. And I kind of put it on the back burner. It wasn't until 2015 where I started to really get into the truth community and try to teach myself and learn what was going on from those who knew more than I did. And I don't know. It's crazy. And like I said, I wish I was doing better myself in handling and being polite with people. Like, for some reason, it bothers me when people say, stay safe out there, as if there's this big monster that's going to come tackle me. And, just the idea that everybody's looking at every other person as if they're a danger to them. Yeah, I mean, I guess the track I was on earlier is trying to say that, I've always questioned for 15 years now how many people are actually awake to what's going on, because people know there's fake news and that the media is slanted, but they don't understand the extent to which the media is involved with world government, this new world order that's been in the works for many decades, if not centuries at this point. And once this pandemic hit, you realize it's not a lot of people are awake at all. It's quite disappointing, and never have I been happier that I'm not on Facebook, because many people that I love, many of my friends and family, are totally buying into this stuff, and there's many people that I couldn't go visit right now if I wanted to, because they just don't want anybody in their house, because they're scared that they're going to be some bringer of death, as if that's even how this whole virus thing works. I mean, we've been lied to from a very young age about a lot of things, and I'm starting to really truly believe that the spread of viruses and how pandemics move about the population is a complete farce. So I'm not telling anyone to break their quarantines or anything, even though I've done it. But, there's much more than what meets the eye going on here, and we're seeing a restructuring of society, and I urge people to try and look at the positives that are going to come out of this. For instance, for me, I have a computer job because it's what I'm good at and it pays well. It's not necessarily the type of work I enjoy doing. I've always liked being more physical with labor, but it doesn't pay as well, So for me, I've been fortunate through this time that I've still been able to hold on to my job and everything. But in the future, there's even less of a chance that I'll have to go in and spend 40 hours a week in an office ever again. Now, I've been working from home for about 2 years now, so I've kind of become acclimated to this lifestyle. But, to not be able to go out at night or, go out for lunch or anything has been just the most bizarre stuff. So there's that. I mean, we're going to be working from home a little bit more, I think, after this is all over, which for a lot of people is a positive. Gets people back to their environments, the outdoors, spending more time with family, pets, things that provide true joy to the soul. I think we're going to see some good come from that. Better uses of technology and whatnot. I'm really, really worried about the level of fear that's going to carry forward as we move ahead after this pandemic ends, because they say this is the new normal and that this is going to go on for months and months, and it just concerns me because that's long enough to kind of rewire the psyche a little bit in most people, and they're going to build a habit of being afraid of other people, and even unconsciously they're going to start behaving differently and keeping themselves more separate from others, and that's a very scary thing, and that's really a strong part of this agenda, because it's a big part of its population control. And the further apart they keep people, the less couples will meet. The more stories they publish about couples breaking up and murdering each other, the less people will want to fall in love and get married. It's a massive operation. And like I say, the mainstream media, what it really is, it's not there to be journalistic by any means. It solely exists as this conduit for the wealthy elite to talk to the peons, the lower class, so to speak. I think most of the people watching this realize that. But it's definitely a paradigm shift, and there's just something. I feel like it's what it's also doing is giving a strong hit to the psyche. It's by giving people the idea that there's this virus out there that can kill them at any time. People will be living in this different state of mind, so they're not going to be thinking as much because they're more based in their reptile brain. They're going to be eating more, so they're going to be less out of shape, even less healthy, probably more sick, more prone to disease because of that. It's this never-ending cycle that'll just continue. So it's going to be sad when we see how this pans out. But But yeah, what people don't realize is that on a subconscious, unconscious level, over the course of 3 or 4 months, that's a long enough time to build new habits. And I'm hoping that everything goes back to normal and people forget about this. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the media is really pushing this being a new normal, and that these epidemics are going to pop up all the time. And now that they have this massive worldwide drill essentially complete with this coronavirus, even though it's still underway technically, they're definitely going to be pushing this again at some point. Maybe it'll be the same disease popping up down the road. And the concern, of course, from there is vaccinations. And when are they going to try and impose mandatory vaccinations? Force people to have proof of vaccination before they buy or sell or visit any public place. When is that going to happen, That's definitely down the road. Whether it's going to happen to the next generation, whether it happens 10 years from now, hell, that at this pace, that shit could happen by fall this year, The point is, at what point is it coming up soon enough for you to have to kind of, worry about it a little bit? And I'm not here to fearmonger or anything, but it's something to prepare for. There's going to be a lot of people who want to refuse that, and they know that. They have a plan for people like us, too, and we'll see how that all goes. But it's weird times, man. They're talking about even closing grocery stores and restaurants. Like, how are people going to eat? Like, holy shit. So, it's pretty wild. All right, so we're over the hour mark. I think I'm done with my rant. Yeah, spread the truth about fake news and how insane it is. New Corona times. Gotta love it. All right, everyone. Thanks again for popping in once more. Like I promised earlier, I'm going to play you guys out with a fun song I wrote back in 2007 when my first dream was to be an electronic musician, which didn't pan out, but that's okay. I had to find this path too. Still reaching a lot of people, but in a different way, All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless. Thanks for jumping in the chat. And we'll talk to you next time. See ya.